You've had a thought today that you would never say out loud. Not because it was illegal, not because it was even that dark, just unspeakable. A thought that, if someone heard it, they'd look at you differently. Here's the question nobody asks. Where did that thought come from? You're sitting in a meeting, someone is talking, and out of nowhere, a thought appears. What if I just stood up right now and walked out? You didn't choose to think that. It just showed up, uninvited. Or you're at a funeral. Everyone is crying, and a stray thought slides in sideways. Something absurd, something almost funny. And you feel sick for even thinking it. Or you're holding a baby, and for half a second, a thought crosses your mind that has nothing to do with love. Something violent. Something that makes no sense at all. You didn't build that thought. You didn't plan it. It arrived fully formed, like it came from somewhere else. And the second it appears, you do something automatic. You shove it down. You act like it never happened. You certainly don't tell anyone. But it happened. It came from inside you. So where does it come from? Here's the first thing to understand. Your brain is not one voice. It's a committee. Underneath the version of you that talks, smiles, and makes decisions, there's a much older system running in the background. Scientists sometimes call it the default mode network. But you don't need the label. You just need the idea. That system doesn't care about social rules. It doesn't care about being polite. It's not trying to protect your reputation. Its only job is to generate, constantly. Possibilities, scenarios, warnings, absurdities, thousands of half-formed thoughts a day, most of which never reach the surface. Most of them dissolve before you even notice them. But every so often, one slips through fully formed. And when it does, it feels like it came from you, because it did. Just not the you that talks. Think of your mind like a house with 2 rooms. One room is the living room. That's where you greet people, choose your words, present yourself. The other room is the basement. Nobody's invited to the basement, but the basement never stops working. It's where raw material gets made. Fear, curiosity, aggression, desire, dark humor, wild ideas, all mixed together, unfiltered, unedited. The thought that scared you today wasn't a message from some evil hidden self. It was raw material from the basement that happened to make it up the stairs before anyone could stop it. Here's the part that changes everything. The brain generates far more than it approves. Every second, your mind produces options it will never act on. A thought is not a decision. A thought is not even a preference. It's closer to a suggestion. One of thousands your brain throws at the wall, hoping something sticks. Most of us think the goal is to have clean thoughts. But that's not how the machine works. The machine's job is variety, volume, options. Somewhere downstream, a filter decides what gets spoken, what gets acted on, what gets remembered. You are not your first thought. You are what you do with it. There's a strange psychological effect that makes this worse. It's called thought suppression, and it's almost a trap. The moment you try not to think about something, your brain has to keep checking. Am I thinking about it now? 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 That checking process keeps the thought alive. Someone tells you, don't think about a white bear, and suddenly, that's all you can think about. This is exactly why intrusive thoughts feel so loud. You notice them, you panic a little, you try to push them away, and the pushing away is what keeps bringing them back. The very act of resisting the thought gives it more attention than it would have gotten if you'd just let it pass. Most thoughts, left alone, last about 10 seconds and disappear. It's the fighting that turns a random spark into a stuck loop. Here's where it gets interesting. The thoughts that disturb you the most are usually not random. They're often the opposite of what you value. If you're a deeply careful driver, the thought that flashes through your mind at a red light might be, what if I just floored it right now? If you're a gentle person, the thought that shows up around someone vulnerable might be shockingly aggressive. If you love someone deeply, the thought that intrudes might be about losing them, or hurting them, or leaving them. This isn't your brain confessing a secret truth about who you really are. It's your brain running a kind of background simulation, testing the edges of what matters to you by imagining its opposite. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. It shows up almost universally in people standing near a ledge, or holding a knife, or standing on a train platform. It's sometimes called the call of the void. The mind, for a split second, imagines the very thing you'd never do. Not because you want to do it, because your brain is running a check. What would happen if I did? It's not a wish. It's a simulation. Your brain testing the boundary so it knows exactly where the boundary is. In a strange way, the intensity of your reaction to a dark thought is proof of the opposite impulse. You only recoil that hard from an idea that violates something you actually care about. A person with no attachment to safety wouldn't be disturbed by a violent thought. They'd feel nothing at all. The disturbance itself is the evidence of your values, not evidence against them. So the very thought you're most ashamed of might actually be your mind's way of double-checking that you still care. And here's the twist inside the twist. Everyone is doing this. Right now. The stranger next to you on the train, the coworker who seems perfectly composed, the calmest person you know. They are all fielding intrusive, bizarre, occasionally disturbing thoughts they will never mention to another human being. You've built an entire picture of other people based only on what they choose to say out loud. Meanwhile, you know your own basement completely. Every strange, unfiltered thing that passes through it. That's an unfair comparison. You're comparing your rawest inner footage to everyone else's edited highlight reel. That's why the thought feels so isolating. Not because it's rare, because it's invisible in everyone else. You didn't choose the thought. You only chose what happened next. The mind isn't a straight line from thought to action. It's a filter. Thousands of drafts a day, and only a few make it past the door. The thought that scared you wasn't a confession. It wasn't a warning about who you secretly are. It was static. Noise from a machine built to generate everything, so that somewhere in the flood, it can occasionally find something useful. You are not the thought. You are the one who watched it pass by and chose not to follow it. And maybe that's the quiet, unglamorous truth about being human. The mind is loud, unfiltered, occasionally strange. And the real you is not what gets generated. The real you is what gets chosen.